for all audiences. Welcome to the South Burbs Hitmen podcast with your hosts, Joe Mandel, Steven Zimmerman, and Vinny Parisi. We're bringing you the White Sox coverage you need from the perspective of true Southsiders. Grab your Comiskey dog with an ice-cold beer and meet us in section 155. Everyone get on your feet for your South Burbs Hitmen!
That ball hit deep. Way back. You can put it on the board. Yes. Jimenez in the air. Left field. He's your hero tonight. Thanks, Cubs.
Over the head of Jenks. Uribe charges, throws. Out! And the White Sox have won the World Series.
Alexei. Yes! 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 History! A perfect game by Mark Burley, and what an unbelievable play by Dwayne Wise.
First pitch starts now.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of South Burbs Hitmen. I'm your host, Joe Mandel, and I'm joined by my White Sox brother-in-arms. I'm talking about Steven Zimmerman, the freshly married Steven Zimmerman. Congratulations, Zim. And our buddy Vinny Parisi can't be with us tonight because he's doing coverage for the New Jersey Devils Game 7, big stuff in hockey land. So, Vinny, have fun doing that. But, Zim, before we bring on our guest, it's been a rough week of White Sox baseball, to say the least, right?
I could not have picked a better week to go on my honeymoon because I barely paid attention to it aside from, end of night highlights, getting final score updates. I would have been in absolute baseball purgatory if I had decided to actually sit down and watch any of these games live from start to finish. That was brutal. And the beautiful part was they kept finding different ways to lose. Like, it wasn't like they just got shelled they just got shelled all week long or anything. It was like, they got shelled in that game, and then this game they just couldn't hit, and then this game, like, they had a lead for most of it and then lost it, and then this game they got a no-hitter going, and wow, who'd have thought they would have lost that one? And it's just
you can't make this stuff up sometimes.
It's why I'm not mad at Vinny at all for not being here tonight. He gets to go celebrate and cover a team that wins and lives up to the hype and does things that they tell their fan base they're going to do, while we get to sit here in misery.
Well, we got a little bit of a break from that yesterday, but I digress. We're gonna bring on our guest. You guys know him. He covers the Chicago White Sox for the Chicago Tribune, and there's no one better. If you haven't read his stuff, go check it out. Friend of the show, LaMond Pope, is back with us. LaMond, thank you so much for being with us on your off day, my friend.
Hey, guys. Thank you for the invite, as always. Zim, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's fresh. Like you said, he picked a good week to take his honeymoon. So I'm sure it has been an interesting time to cover this team, LaMond. And, I think first and foremost, we have to start with Luis Robert, because he's made some headlines this week with his reasoning in his post-game interview, talking about his lack of effort running to first base. Tell us a little bit about, the backstory with that story and kind of what's going on with his benching, because there's been a lot of back and forth about, Pedro and Luis talking their stories and miscommunications. So I figured I'd get it straight from you. What the heck is going on?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because we're still all kind of not 100% sure about the whole sequencing of everything that happened. Here's someone that obviously one of the things that Pedro Grifol has stressed throughout, the day since the day he was hired, was communication, and in this instance here, there was a lack of communication. Obviously, it started obviously with ground ball that Luis hit in the first inning. It looked like it was a play that he was going to be able to beat on out, but then like about halfway through, you can kind of see as you're watching the play, he grimaces a little bit and he slows on up and then he's thrown on out on a play that, most of the times someone with Luis's type of speed is going to beat on out. And so at the end of the first inning, they had a conversation. Luis goes back on out there for the top of the second, but by the bottom of the second, he's out of the game. And so after word comes on out from the White Sox that that it was a managerial decision was the reason that he was pulled. And then after the game, Pedro essentially said the same thing. He was like, "Hey, we have a standard here. You run out ground balls," which is obviously something that the fans like to hear, because obviously what happened last year during a number of situations in which some of the guys were told, kind of, if you're hurt, don't go that 100%, don't, kind of give up, make sure that you're able to play the next night, right? And so it was, a little bit of a different standpoint, sort of a different standard from that perspective, which I'm sure everyone likes to hear. But then we had the opportunity to talk to Luis, and Luis essentially said that that he had some tightness, and he didn't want to share that information with the manager because he wanted to be in the lineup. And so he did tell Eloy, he did tell Elvis, and so that's where word eventually got to the coaching staff that something might have been up from that standpoint. But even so his explanation was essentially that the reason why he wasn't able to go hard all the way to first base because he was dealing with a little bit of a hamstring issue, and he wanted to kind of play conservative that night. So the next day we bring that up to Pedro, and Pedro first says, "Well, I don't. Well, tell me what he said." And so we relayed that to him, and he said, "Well, the reason why he didn't the reason why we sat was a managerial decision. We have a standard here, and you go hard. And the reason why he didn't start on Sunday, Pedro said, was because apparently he had the hamstring tightness, and so Luis did get in the game as a pinch hitter late in the ball game, and he immediately was pulled for Romy Gonzalez. And so it seems like after that little bit of information, after I think it was like a day-long story, and I think come Tuesday when we're back at the ballpark, if Luis's hamstring is ready to go, I expect him to be in the lineup.
Yeah, White Sox fans had a bit of a field day with that, but hey, it worked out with Hazley on Sunday. We'll probably talk about that a little bit more later on in the show. But Zim, it's all you, buddy.
I mean, personally, I don't think I would have been as upset with the Luis Robert thing if Yaz didn't beat out an infield grounder in the same game. And that kind of just blew the whole thing out of proportion for some of us, like myself. So, but all in all, I mean, that sort of conservative approach that he's taking, maybe the whole team is doing it because their wins are very conservative right now. And with that performance, in your opinion, who's on the hotter seat? Would it be Grifol? Would it be Rick Hahn? Is anybody in danger? Is nobody in danger? I mean, I know one and done's not super common, but with the expectations versus the performance, do you think there's anything to be concerned about there?
From the managerial standpoint, I think everything's fine. I mean, obviously, we had the chance to talk to Rick at the beginning of the homestand, and he took responsibility for he said, "Put it on me," right? That was the big headline that everyone ran with. He later said that when you asked if I was responsible, and I said, when you asked who was responsible, I said me, and with that comes comes the pressure, or comes the responsibility of knowing that my job might be on the line. And so Rick knows that the way this ball club is playing, that the way that things are performing, that things have to turn around real fast. But I mean, it's such a huge hole that they've dug themselves on. And I mean, then it becomes what's acceptable. What's the level? Obviously, for the White Sox, the one thing that Rick also said was that the expectation is still to be a contender. An expectation is still to be one of those teams that's playing for postseason success. And so it's like from our perspective, it's like, all right, so how do you grade this? If what's the level of of success that this ball club has to have for them to kind of go into the offseason and be like, all right, this thing is finally starting to grow back in the right direction. And so, again, this team is so deep and so far back, 9 games back in the standings. At 1 month in, I mean, it's and just so many games under 500. I mean, it's such a tall task to ask. I was writing something earlier today. Obviously the April schedule. Ton of games against the Rays, ton of games, series against the Blue Jays.
Tough.
It was tough, but the expectation going on into the season was, this was a team that was going to be able to compete with those guys. And so the fact that, being in the games with the Rays, being in a number of close games with the Rays, that's one thing, but you have to be able to win those games if you want to be a contender. And so, but I was writing, taking a look at the May schedule. I think there's 20 games against teams that are sub 500. And so if you're going to make some noise, this is the month to do it, because I think it's only the Twins, this upcoming Twins series, 3-game series against Houston. Well, as far as just teams over 500 that they're playing this month, it's only the 3-game series against Minnesota, 3 against Houston, and the 3 against Los Angeles Angels at the end of the series, at the end of the month, and the Angels are only 1 game over 500 right now. And so, there's, if you take a look at it on paper, there's a chance to make some improvement. But again, I mean, there's a reason. This team hasn't won back-to-back games all year long, and so you have to see it to believe it. Let alone the series. Yeah, and so you have to start small, and starting small, I guess, is winning back-to-back games, and they might have that opportunity tomorrow night.
But just to jump off from where you started that whole thing, the conversation with Rick Hahn, right? And I know it's taking it back a little bit, but taking it back to 2021, didn't we have the same conversation with Rick Hahn, the put it on me conversation, I'm not doing good enough? Didn't we have that same conversation again last year as well? Like, at what point do we finally reach the breaking point of enough is enough? I mean, is it just Jerry being old and complacent and saying, is it, money's still coming in? I mean, in your opinion, where do we finally see some kind of change? Because it seems like we're getting worse and worse instead of getting better and better. And we keep having this conversation of there's the opportunity, coming up. There's the opportunity to get better. And we keep reaching and never grasping.
No, I mean, Tim, I remember all last year, like, I was like, I'd be like, all right, this is the week they turn it around. No, this is the week that they turn it around. And by the by the end of the season, it's like, all right, well, nope, it's just not going to happen. And obviously there was there was Tony in charge, and so there was an added, there was an added sort of element to the 2021 season as far as the distribution of blame for the season. And so, no, I think it starts obviously with at the general manager level, and then you kind of go from there. And so, again, it comes back to what needs to be done for this team to say, all right, this has been a successful season, or is it already too late from the standpoint of, hey, can this, not making the playoffs again, is that a situation where, all right, there needs to be some change? And so those are the questions that the White Sox have to ask. I think it's a situation where, this was a franchise. This is a franchise that everyone thought, coming off of the success in 2021, that they were going to be able to build off of. It definitely, last season was disappointment doesn't really even do justice to what happened last season. And obviously this year so far has been a disaster. And so some hard questions have to be asked, throughout the organization. And again, what is going to be acceptable, even if the team starts playing good baseball? Is good baseball good enough to keep things as is? I mean, that's what we're going to have to wait and see how all that turns on out.
Yeah, for sure, LaMond. And as we talked about those high expectations, this team clearly has not lived up to them. So I'm curious, from what you're seeing, what's the vibe in the clubhouse? Because like there's some big names missing. How much are they missing guys like Tim Anderson and Yohan Moncada? Is the clubhouse vibe feel different this year?
No, I mean, the funny thing is, obviously that was one of the questions throughout last year as well. It's just sort of how these guys clicking, how's everything going. Obviously, you take out someone who has such a live personality, a large personality as Liam Hendricks. Not having him in the mix throughout, even he was there during portions of spring training, and so and I thought that really brought the clubhouse together. It sounds like he's going to be in town this week, and so we might have the chance to talk to him and get a little bit of an update from that perspective as well. And so I'm sure the guy's going to be so excited just to see him, and the fact that the progress that he's made has just been remarkable,
unreal.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's someone who was such a who is such a large character and a large personality in that clubhouse. So not having him there, obviously, take away the baseball aspect of it, just what he brings to the clubhouse on a day in and day out basis, is something that's missing. Obviously Tim's been there, even throughout the until this past weekend when he was in Charlotte. He traveled with the team to Toronto, and so he's been around, making that progression. And so, but it's different from actually being in the clubhouse and then actually being able to perform on the field.
Sure.
I wrote something. I think this year, during this span, the 3-15 when he doesn't and he's not in the starting lineup this year.
They're brutal without him.
And it's sort of obviously we've had some questions about how the lineup construction has happened since, and they had Robert up at the top of the lineup probably a little too often. Benintendi was kind of able to do some things at the top of the lineup, but Tim at the top of the lineup gets everything going, and so you need have Tim at the top to kind of let that lineup go the rest of the way that it needs to go. So getting him back tomorrow will be huge. Yohan, I don't know. We're just sort of dealing on a day-to-day basis just to see what his status is going to be and when he's going to be able to kind of, they say he's making progress, but when this started, there's a belief from, I think we were in Minnesota at the time. I believe it was Minnesota at the time when they said, well, he might be ready by this upcoming weekend, and then that kept getting pushed back, and then he went on the IL, and then we got the update about the disc in the back, and so excuse me, it's a situation where luckily or fortunately for them, Jake Berger has performed exceedingly well, and so it's been a situation where where obviously Yohan was playing throughout up until that Pittsburgh series. Obviously had a ton of success at the World Baseball Classic, and he sort of rolled that into the start of the regular season. So it looked like we were seeing some signs of that 2019 Yohan before that act just sort of kind of started acting up. He had a really rough series against the Pirates, and that led to the problems, and that led to him going on the IL eventually. And so, I would like to say, hey, when this lineup is completely healthy and ready to go, we can kind of see, but who knows when that's going to exactly be. We'll get a little bit of a snippet tomorrow with Tim. But the clubhouse, I think the clubhouse has been okay. Obviously, one of the things I liked, one of the games in Toronto, Sebi Zavala. He was really. These guys don't like to lose, and the fact that he was, you can tell when we had the chance to talk to him after one of the games, the anger and the just wanting to kind of will them to kind of get a victory, and so the guys, they know. They're living out on a day-to-day basis. Just how important yesterday was to finally kind of get off that snide.
Yeah, and it was a great feeling for sure. And Andrew Vaughn's post game after the game, he just said, "Hey, did we actually win a baseball game?" And yeah, they got to start somewhere. But going back into the clubhouse, I'm just curious from last year to this year, kind of what you're seeing as the differences between Tony La Russa's clubhouse and Pedro Grifal's, if anything comes to mind.
Well, I mean, it's one of those situations where I think it all starts with the players. And I really felt like throughout camp, you had the right mix of guys, even guys that aren't here. You bring back a Billy Hamilton, and he sort of was like a little bit of a spark for the guys throughout the clubhouse. Someone like Hans Alberto, that's one of the things that he's sort of known for, is being sort of a good clubhouse guy. So those guys sort of like brought sort of that veteran presence through camp, and it seemed like looser camp. It seemed like a more like a focused camp from the standpoint, not more focused, because I think there was a responsibility that the guys had last year in trying to elevate to that next level that just never happened. But it seemed like there was maybe a little bit of a weight lifted, not having the pressures of being the hunted. Not being that, of being back in that underdog sort of role. And so and then they go to Houston and they play pretty good baseball, right? You're watching them raise the banner. You're watching them get their rings, and you're able to split a series against the Astros, and you're coming out of that series, and the pitching was really strong in that series.
It was.
And I thought, all right, well, this is the ball club that can win some games, and they haven't, and they just that's the home series against the Giants was just so deflating from the stand. All the home runs that they allowed. You mentioned it earlier, Zem, the fact that it's been a little bit of one series, it's the pitching that doesn't show up. The next series, it's the hitting that doesn't show up. One thing that I thought had improved from last year was the defense, but obviously that series against Minnesota, they instead of winning 2 out of 3, they lost 2 out of 3, and partially because of the poor defense that was played throughout the series. You've seen some, this past series, you saw some like head scratching plays, the pop up that led to it in shallow right center field that led to a sacrifice fly. Those are the things that the fundamentals aspect. That was one of the things that Pedro really stressed, and to see that falter from with that play with Sosa and Andrews at second base, and also the other night with Robert, just seeing those type of things kind of creep on in and reminds you of last year, which is something that you don't want to see whatsoever. And so it has been a little bit of everything that's let this team on down. And so if we can get to a sense of finally, you saw the bats not strike out. Obviously, that was crucial. I think I wrote something today that in that 9th inning, they had 5 2-strike hits during that last inning, and obviously coming off that series in Toronto, where they struck out in one game 17 times. The fact that they're able to make contact and put the ball in play and let things happen. Good things can happen if you just make contact, as they saw last night. And so it's been an all-around struggle. It's obviously the big thing that everyone's pointed to is just the chase rate. There's just not seeing the improvements on a day in and day out basis from the at-bats. But you can't walk guys, and they've walked too many players or batters. You can't make the fundamental mental miscues and expect to beat a team like Tampa Bay. And so you got to sharpen up all the way around if this team wants to start slowly digging out of this huge hole.
Yeah, definitely got to dig out, right, Tim?
Absolutely. One of the things that might help them along that digging out of that hole, something you touched on earlier as well, the shot in the arm that these guys might need. I was hoping that the Liam Hendriks news would help with that, but maybe him actually joining them on the team again will help. As we all know, he's been fighting cancer and is officially in remission. Do you know how close he is to making his return? Sox fans, players all love him, and he's the best story in baseball, especially for the White Sox so far this year. But just overall, I don't think there's anything greater than this in the game right now.
Yeah, we'll hopefully get a little bit of an update when we have the chance to see him sometime this week, either tomorrow or Wednesday or Thursday, and kind of get, obviously the Sox put out the video the other day of him down in Arizona on the mound, and so that's one of the things that him being at at spring training camp, and he was throwing, during portions of camp, and so when he started after the announcement that he was cancer free, he already had somewhat of a base to kind of go with, and so. Excuse me. It might be a situation where, pretty soon we might be able to see him out on a rehab assignment down, in Charlotte or Birmingham or wherever. But hopefully we'll get a little bit of a little more of a clearer sense here in the next 2 or 3 days from that standpoint. The Sox have sort of said, and this is the way to go about it as well. They're kind of going at the pace that Liam is most comfortable at, and so obviously something like this, there isn't a chart, right? There isn't hey, we can kind of expect someone has a foot injury or something like that. We can expect like 2 to 3 weeks or something like that. There isn't really a chart for something that like what Liam was going on through, and so and obviously each person is a different individual from that standpoint, and so the White Sox have been really cautious, been really careful, and they've sort of let Liam sort of dictate the pace, which is the right thing to do. And so, like I said, we'll hopefully here Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday we'll get a little bit more of a clarity as far as like what that next step is in Liam's progression. I mean, because obviously, from obviously, as you said, it's a great story. Regardless of baseball, but now that we're in that baseball portion of it, that adds another element, and you start thinking, well, because this bullpen has been,
it's a roller coaster.
And so it's been a situation where they to have that security blanket at the end at the back end where you know that you can have Liam in the ninth inning, and then you kind of build backwards from there. That sort of sets up, and obviously with Garrett Crochet recently going on and starting his rehab assignment as well. So that's two potentially that's two big arms that you can boost up that bullpen a little bit, which desperately needs it as well.
They do desperately need some help, that's for sure. But
desperately is an understatement.
Yeah. But in terms of the offense, friend of the show and who was on the offseason with us, Jake Berger, has been a bit of a revelation for the White Sox this season. You could put arguably in the team MVP area right now with his performance. He, in your opinion, cemented his spot in the big leagues at this point, even when Moncada returns?
Oh, I mean, that's going to be really. I mean, yes. He had a terrific spring, and so it was going to be really tight as far. He was one of those last guys that didn't make the ball club coming out of spring training, but because the bat travels. I mean, the bat is major league ready, and so it's just a question of where can they play him defensively? How often would he be able to contribute from that defensive standpoint? Obviously, with the addition of Oscar, you're going to have mostly Eloy as a designated hitter, and so there's those opportunities. The question was sort of how, if you're going to have Jake up, how are you going to be able to utilize him? But I mean, I think he has performed so well that you have to kind of figure out a way to get him on in. Does that mean having Eloy in right field more often? That might be the case. You have to kind of figure out, does that mean, obviously having that first option back, if having him available to play third base if Yohan needs a day off, or first base if Andrew needs a day off. Those are the type of things that you're going to have to figure out, and you have to give him enough at bats as well, because when he's in the lineup, he's doing some serious damage, and so that's going to be something interesting to see. If and when Yohan comes on back, just how they utilize Jake, because he deserves to remain in the big leagues, and he deserves an opportunity to help this offense out in any way that they can, because his bat has been so valuable so far for the team this season.
And he's looked good at third. He made some great plays yesterday. 2 diving plays. One of them, he didn't get the out, but he made his best effort on that throw. And the first play was just an absolute dime, a dive and a dime. So I've been impressed with everything I've seen from Jake. So I'm with you, LaMond. I hope so.
Yeah, we saw before the game, he was working with the fielding coordinator just out right in front of the dugout, just taking extra ground balls, just getting in, and those. Yeah, he's out there doing that on a daily basis, and you can see some of the improvements that he's been able to make defensively.
And it's awesome to see because it's something that he himself highlighted when he came on our show in the off season and we said, what have you been working on? And he said, my defense. And it's like, it's awesome to see it reflect on the field because he's worked hard at it. And it seems like a lot of these guys on this team have worked on their defense, and some of them definitely haven't, but that's a story for a different day. I'm going to take kind of a left turn from our little sheet here. And go off of that last question. Do you think that having somebody like Berger on this team, does that make it easier to move off of somebody like Yoan Moncada, who's seemingly always hurt, somebody like Tim Anderson, who might fetch you a nice price, if you want to tear the whole thing down? Does having a piece like that make you more comfortable to start doing this? Do you think that's something the Sox would consider, or am I just a fan who's had too much losing?
I'm always I'm always cautious of obviously the way that the season is going. When you get if things continue the way that they are, when you get closer to the trade deadline. Those are serious discussions that you have to have as far as in the case maybe someone like Lucas whose contract is going to be a free agent at the end of the season. You mentioned Tim, who has a couple. They can bring on back with a club option, and so but the more that a team another team can get out as far as years, that's the more attractive a player can be as well, and so. Those are all questions that need to be asked. As far as just how Jake's start or someone's start plays into that, I don't particularly think that would be the case because it's a situation where a player might be hot in April and then you might have a slump in May and then you're questioning, well, now what do we do with this? Well, and so I'm always cautious as far as April starts. Obviously, a couple years ago, who's the talk of White Sox baseball? Yermin Mercedes, right? And so it would have been
he fell off the cliff,
right. We would have had it would have been the same sort of conversation a couple months ago or a couple years ago from that standpoint. So you're always you want to see it on a consistent day in on day out basis. Obviously, Jake's track record, having the chance to see him do it last year. In parts definitely helps that cause. So it's different from that perspective. It's not someone that's fresh up in the major leagues, first opportunity, and making that splash that like Yermin did last year. But I think generally speaking, when someone has that sort of hot April, you don't want to make too many assumptions. Well, we can move on from this player X or this player Y because this player is off to such a nice start, and so that's always something that you have to kind of be comfortable or careful with. But I think that the general tone as far as what this team does as the trade deadline nears, if this team is still 8 or 9 games back, as we're nearing that time, you're going to hear a lot of names. I remember just one of the games. After one of the games the other day, I tweeted out the score and just worst start to the season since 19 blah blah blah, and then I got flooded by a lot of Dodger fans who are like, Tim would look really nice in Dodger blue, and so that talk is already out there from other fan bases, but again, I think it's one of those situations where you have to kind of just see how things unfold a little bit more, and then as you get kind of closer to the trade deadline, just see where things stand from that standpoint.
And we have so many injuries anyway. We're only one injury away from, needing that extra guy. So I hear you, LaMond, there for sure. But to step away specifically from White Sox talk and to talk just baseball in general, as someone who lives and breathes the game, I'm just curious, what's your opinion so far of the rule changes this season? It's only been a month, but just curious from what you've seen, what are your thoughts on the new rule changes?
Oh, I've absolutely loved them. And it's not just the standpoint of the ball games. I think the ball games have been more crisp. Just in general, guys have to be, infielders, outfielders. They have to be on their toes, pitch in and pitch out, because every 15 seconds that ball is being delivered to the plate, and so. I think you're seeing some cleaner baseball because guys are just so much more in tune to what's happening on a pitch by pitch basis. When I was growing up, a ground ball up the middle was a base hit. And now it's a base hit again. So seeing that kind of brings me on back to my youth, just growing up. Now I've gotten so accustomed when a ball is hit up the middle to be like 6-3 or 4-3. Put out at first base, put it in my scorebook, and now that's a hit again. I just think overall. You're seeing games played. They just seemed a little more crisp, a little more clean, and I definitely think that has something to do with the fact that fielders have to be on their toes and they have to be ready to go on a pitch basis, because guys aren't just sort of holding on to the ball, trying to figure out what they're going to throw, having waiting, and then making the pitch. And so I've been a big fan of almost all the changes. Obviously, the stolen bases as well. You're seeing teams take advantage of that. I think I read something today, like 40% increase as far as stolen bases are concerned for this portion of the month of the season. And so yeah, I mean, it's added some different elements, and it's also added. It's also another layer of one thing that I think we all really love about the game is just sort of the strategy involved as well. There's some new elements of strategy that has to be involved with the game that I think that I've enjoyed as well. And so I don't know what I'm missing. As far as it's like, well, you know what? There's nothing that I can pinpoint and say, I really wish they wouldn't have done this because I miss X or I miss Y. All these changes that have been made, I think, have benefited the game.
Yeah, I caught my first game yesterday this season, and I was just amazed how it just feels so much quicker in the ballpark.
Yeah, and yesterday was an actual long one. So right. But even so, it was like over 3 hours, but it was still like a 12-9 ball game. And so whereas that might have been a 4-hour game in the past, you're able to get on out. And it I remember looking it up in like the fourth or fifth inning. I was like, oh, we're already in the fourth or fifth inning, and then it kind of slowed on down from there. But yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like you got to get in your seat for that first pitch, because before you know it, you're an hour in and you're already in the bottom of the fourth inning.
And quick segues in before I pass it back to you. We're talking about rule changes that happen, but I'm just curious about one that's on the docket. Just curious your thoughts on robo-umps.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had a chance to take a look at too many minor league games to see how that's works on out. I mean, I'm sure that's going to be one that'll be really interesting because having that uniform strike zone is one thing, but just sort of like those high strikes. It's like we're really going to call it like that top of the box? That's and so that's the hitter. That's the former hitter in me. Well, really poor hitter in me, advocating for batters from that standpoint. But yeah, so that'll be something definitely taking a look at it. Yeah, I haven't watched a ton of minor league baseball just to see how that all is operating and what the feedback has been from guys going on through the systems and things of that nature. And so that'll be something because it's coming. You're right. It is part of that next wave.
Yeah.
And so it'll be really interesting just to see how. I think the players have all spring long. The rules that we have, the new rules that we have in place now. They're the big topic of conversation throughout spring training, and especially things like the disengagements, and just sort of adjusting to that level, and also just kind of the older players or the veteran players who didn't have the chance to go through a pitch clock down to the minors, just sort of how were they going to adjust on a day in and day out basis with that aspect of it. I think for the most part, there's a little that series against the Pirates was a little sloppy from both teams, both sides. That was one, but that's really the only series that I can recall in which it became a major issue as far as the pitch clock is concerned. I think the White Sox have adjusted pretty well throughout, other than that Pirates series. And like I said, in that series, it seemed like both the Pirates and White Sox were getting called with it, and so give it the spring for the guys to adjust, and once we get through like halfway through April, sort of like with this, I'm sure that everyone will be rolling and ready for if and when that robo umpire comes.
Yeah, that's wild.
I tell you, I'm not entirely against it, but I also want to see how it goes first. So I'm all for the experimenting in the minors there. And hey, it's worked with a few of these rule changes in the past. I mean, I think the pitch clock's been in the minors for 3 seasons now. So they really took their time, fleshed it out, made it what it is. It still feels a little rushed, I think, to some guys, but overall, I think it has improved the experience, especially in the ballpark. And, speaking of the experience in the ballpark, moving from the field to the stands, as a spectator so far this season, have you gotten a chance to try any of the new dishes at the stadium? Have you picked out any favorite items, or are they giving you guys like really nice stuff up in the press box this season? Or how is it out there?
Yeah, no, not yet. I mean, we were down in spring training when they introduced all of the new food, and I wanted to check out the chicken. I wanted to check out the tenders and the fries, but I haven't had the chance to do that quite yet. I've been just pretty much just bringing it. We haven't had a ton of home games, right? And so maybe as we get a little bit more into the season, I'll have a little more chance. For the most part, I'll just bring something from home. Some leftovers, and so yeah, I still have to get on out and check out some of the new foods and things of that nature. But because some of the things on the list do look pretty good.
They do. I mean, I'm in Denver, so I don't get out there very often. So when I do, I'm usually like, can we go to that stall and that place? And I want to go to that one. And I'm engorged by the fourth inning. Joe can attest to it. We went to a game a couple of years ago, but
that's true.
Do you have any particular spots like near or around the stadium? Any local spots in Chicago or even on the road? Any of the stadiums out there that's a spot I gotta hit this time?
When I'm on the road, let's see. Let's see. Some of my favorite places on the road. I'm so custom, obviously, with all the AL Central spots. There's like. In Minneapolis, there's a place called the Loon that's really close, like right around the corner from the ballpark. There's a couple really good pizza places, Pizza Lucy, and I'm just thinking Minnesota because we were just up there, and so those are a couple places that I most definitely had after the games. Cleveland, I'm trying to think where we go to Cleveland. There's a spot, and I can't remember the name right now, but usually we actually see some umpires that's
nice.
Sort of hang out as well, and so I'll have to remember. I can't think of the name right now, but it's right around the corner from the ballpark as well. Detroit. For the most part, I just sort of stay mostly around there's a Renaissance that we stay at for the most part there, and they have a nice little hotel bar / restaurant that I eat when I go to Detroit. And so Kansas City, though, that's the one that's so different because there's not really much right around the ballpark. Love the ballpark. That was where my first road game covering the Sox for the Tribune was. But nice. You have to go back downtown to kind of hit any of the spots down there, and so all the good barbecue places are scattered throughout the city, and so whenever I go to KC, this time definitely hit a couple barbecue spots. Arthur Bryant's right right down the block from the Negro League Museum, and so check that out, and then go get some Arthur Bryant's as well. So those are those, having the opportunity to go to those AL Central spots, two or three. Well, now we're down to two with the new addition to the schedule. That's another change that I've really liked as well. Having the chance to play every single team, getting the opportunity to see every single ball club, getting the chance to go now. Within a 2-year cycle to every single stadium. I think I'm down to three to go, and was the Sox play in Washington, playing DC, so I'll get the chance to go to that ballpark for the first time, and that'll just leave
Sweet. Miami
and Philly as the last two that I have to see throughout to get all 30, and so looking forward to doing that. Yeah, that definitely looks to be the case for sure.
Well, that's a fantastic location too, right down the street from where the Raiders play. That'll be cool. A lot cooler than the Oakland Coliseum, that's for sure. But
I'm not looking forward to that possum. Last year when we were there, there's always a colony of ants that we have to deal with. But the possum.
Oh my
I kept looking around to see if the possum was there, but no possum last season. I hope they get rid of it again. Get rid of it before you go there in June this year.
It doesn't even sound like a real story, like when people say it. It sounds like, wait, this is a major league facility and there's possums? I mean, that's wild.
Yes.
Have you seen it in person many times, or just how much?
We've just dealt with ants. That's the big thing in our portion of the press box, is just sort of knowing to kind of watch your food, because there's going to be some ants coming around for you, and so the last year we had heard the story of the possum last year, and so I was aware of it, but we didn't, but there weren't any possum sightings last year. And then obviously the story that the Mets announcers told why they couldn't use the booth, that added another layer of scaring me this year. And so definitely, not totally looking forward to that portion of that Oakland trip.
Imagine why.
but that ballpark is again, growing on up, watching those A's teams with making those World Series. That was always, I have really good memories of growing up and watching that Giants, watching part of the Giants series, the Dodgers series, obviously the Red series in 1990 as well, and so and then obviously the playoffs, the wild card series that the Sox were involved in, even though it was the 2020 series and there weren't any fans there, but just being there for that was a pretty special memory that I have, and so from that perspective, that ballpark stands out to me. But they really gotta they gotta take care of it before they, like you said, move to Vegas.
Yeah, there's still a little bit of time, so they gotta maintain it in the meantime. So, but no, that's great hearing all those stories, LaMond. That's great, and we can never thank you enough for all the time and coming on the show every year with us. It's our third season. It's your third time being on the show, so we can't thank you enough. And why don't you talk about some of the stuff you got going on at Tribune? Obviously, you cover the team and where people can read your information. So if you just want to let our listeners and viewers know where they can check you out.
Oh, sure. Thanks as always. No, first off, thanks as always. This is always a blast. I always enjoy the conversation with you guys.
Likewise.
Oh, yeah. And as far as just where people can find me, my stories are at ChicagoTribune.com. And obviously, or you can pick up a paper on a daily basis. I still love the print product. And then also you can read me at my Twitter handle there, LaMond Pope, as well. I put out all the stories there, a link to all the stories as well, and so those are the best opportunities and best chances to read us and see how this team tries to fight its way out of this huge hole they find themselves in right now.
Well, hey, LaMond, like you said earlier, they got a nice schedule coming up in May, so let's capitalize on it. And if all things go well with the baseball gods, maybe they'll turn things around in this bad AL Central division, and maybe we'll be talking to you before the playoffs in October. We'll be on the optimistic side of things. How about that, LaMond?
All right.
LaMond's like, all right, man. He goes, I'd much rather cover a winning team. Which hey, after May, maybe they'll scrap their way back. But nonetheless, LaMond, we can't thank you enough for giving us all this great content and for giving us so much of your time on your off day. So we'll let you get back to it. But again, LaMond, thank you so much for being a friend of the show and just for always just being in our corner and for all the great coverage of the White Sox. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks once again, fellas. Anytime.
All right, LaMond, have a great night, and let's go beat the Twins tomorrow.
Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks, LaMond. Take care. LaMond Pope, everybody, best in the business. Make sure you go follow him on social media at LaMond Pope. He's on Twitter, and then I believe I saw he's got a Facebook page as well. And of course, go to Chicago Tribune and check out all his content. Pick up a paper or go to the website and subscribe. Either way, all great stuff there. And Zim, before we get to the rest of the show, we are going to pop out for a quick commercial break. Let me get rid of the ticker at the bottom of the screen. There it goes. And if I could find the commercial, here we go. So we will be right back after this commercial break.
Greg Gabriel, former director of scouting for the Chicago Bears.
This guy's more of a move guy than a why. He's not very strong. He needs to get stronger, especially in the lower body.
Danny Shimon, professional scout for player agents.
An intriguing background. The more you watch him, the more you like this kid. Quality kid that caught a lot of people's eyes at the East-West Shrine game.
Between the two of them, they've posted over 100 scouting reports for Bears fans.
I love him. And I think that he is a perfect 3 in this game.
For just $10, you can have access to every one of those videos.
Marvin Mims, he's quick, fast, consistently gets open. He gets in and out of cuts very, very quickly.
Just go to patreon.com/barroom draft.
And we are back with South Burbs Hitman. Again, a huge thank you to our guest, LaMond Pope. The guy just covers this team like nobody else. Guy knows it inside and out and just great friend of the show. So, again, huge thank you to LaMond. It's just wild hearing about the possums in the press box in Oakland and mounds of ants. That's all stuff I didn't know, Zim. I tell you what, LaMond knows how to have a good time, man.
Yeah, I don't know if we really want to talk about good times at the Oakland A's stadium after the scandal that happened. Was at the very beginning of this year, the end of last year. But
we won't
talk
about.
I tell you what has not been a good time, and that is watching the Chicago White Sox this season.
The specifically the last 2 weeks. You went on the honeymoon at your best possible time, man.
If you want to talk the last 2 weeks specifically, sure. As a season-long ordeal, I mean, this team's been so bad that Vinny gave up on him. Like, come on. Vinny's like one of the most positive guys I know. Speaking
of Vinny, his Devils are up 2-0 end of the second period.
Good for him. I hope he has a great night. Honestly. I hope that he gets something to celebrate tonight and that he has to miss a few more shows. But because he's covering that team a little longer, because he deserves to enjoy himself.
Yeah, not wallow in misery like us. Right?
That's right. So, yeah, I mean, just overall, it's been rough. There's not been one particular thing that's been better than anything else. It's all just kind of been bad. I mean, I think we have a Tony La Russa quote from last year or something. I don't remember. Something about
terrible,
it all.
Awful, no terrible. Excuse.
That's just it.
That's the clip that plays during our Adam Dudd segment.
I think there's another one from John Fox from several years ago on the Bears. You know, offense was bad, coaching was bad. It's all bad, you know, but we're used to it in Chicago is the worst part. I think that's worse than anything is the fact that we're just like numb to it at this point. It's like, all right, we're in for another season of this, I guess.
Yeah, it's like I'm literally not even going to do a Pedro's Pen segment today because, I mean, when you lose 10 straight and then we can briefly talk about yesterday's game because it was a thumbs up, but
yeah,
when you lose 10 straight, I mean, there's just nothing you're doing is working. And as LaMond and you both pointed out, they're losing it a different way every single game. I'm just hoping that this walk-off win yesterday where these bats came alive in the 9th, and maybe that's the spark that they need, Zim. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I hope it's the spark. It felt like a game that could be. But, I mean, as we discussed earlier as well, how many times have we said that in the last season and a half? Like, it's like that's the one that's going to get them over the hump. This is the spark that they needed. And then it's like, oh, it's a week later, and we're right back to it,
Yeah, back to pooping the bed.
The one bright side I'll give Pedro as a manager is he did bench Robert, and that is the correct move in that situation. That's absolutely what he should have done, especially if the guy is holding out on injury concerns. Like, that's a detriment to the entire team, not just to himself.
I mean, that's putting himself before the team. I mean, you're not you're not helping your team win if you're going out there and you're tight. And first off, I think it's a load of crap anyway. I do. I mean, he did look a little gimpy, but like there's sore and then there's tight. I think those are different things. So first off,
is he tight because he's slacking off and not stretching and not getting loose and just expecting his body to do things?
He says he in his interview, it was the worst interview ever. First of all,
well, no surprise.
They should have benched him just for that. Like he didn't even know the name of the bench coach on the team. That's embarrassing. He had to ask around the name of the bench coach. I mean, what does that say about Luis Robert? I mean, that's horrible.
Yeah.
First off. And then secondly, he said it's because he was hustling so hard the game before. I believe he went 0-4 the day before. So you tell me how much you were hustling. I mean, I'm not saying that he didn't try hard, but
I mean, he might have made a couple plays in the outfield, but yeah.
I got ripped on Twitter. I probably overreacted a little bit afterwards. I said the White Sox should cut him. It's a hot take, and that's definitely a hot take. But like, funny thing is, like 80% of White Sox Twitter is like, yeah, cut his ass. And I'm like, and then like 20% of people said that I was a complete moron, which realistically they should bench him, maybe send him down to the minors for a couple of days to send a message and then trade him. I've seen enough. The lack of effort. I mean, the defense has been the only thing that he's improved on. Again, I realize that they can't just cut him. There's a lot of things, a lot of reasons for that. One, they can get draft capital. Two, there's money involved. And three, I was just mad because it was a really horseshit play, and I have no problem saying that out loud. But I had enough of Luis Robert. And then to see, you made a good point there, Zim, to see him get benched yesterday, and then Adam Hazley comes in and has a 4-for-4 day with a walk, and he's just the man on the field. He looked like a man on fire. So maybe that's what we needed, to get Adam Hazley on the team and earn his spot, and maybe he can play center. He can play right sometimes. I don't know. Something we needed a spark, and maybe that was it.
Yeah. Like I said, we've talked about the spark over and over and over again. I don't know if that was it or if it's ever going to come, but hey, 3 against three against the division opponent. Hopefully they can at least make up a little bit of ground here. And if they do, that's when I'll start to kind of get back on board with it. But
the division sucks.
The division is so bad, and they can't even seem to win in the division. And that's where it's starting to get kind of concerning as well. So
I had a really rough time watching them this week because and I watched almost every game this week, Zim. And it was like torture. And just for clarity, yesterday is the first game I caught of the season. I'm out with my brother-in-laws yesterday, and it was a cold, rainy, wet day. And we sat in the seats until the 7th inning. Then we went up to that bar upstairs. You know what I'm talking about. Now it's the Vizzy View bar. It's not Revolution anymore, but whatever.
Right.
Warmed up a little bit, and then we're walking through the outfield. It's raining, but there's no one out there, so we're standing there watching out. Watching the game. It's whatever it was, the top of the 8th or something like that. And that's when Romy Gonzalez dropped that routine fly ball. I don't know if you saw that play, Zim.
Yeah.
He drops that route. We're the only 2 guys in the outfield. One of my brother-in-laws in the bathroom. the other one's with me, and we're the only two in the outfield, and we're staring down, and I'm like, oh, good. At least he's getting out of this inning. He drops it. He just totally missed it, man. It was awful. So I feel, everyone's going to have a play like that from time to time. It's just when it rains, it pours, no pun intended with the weather that day. I feel good that they were able to pull off the win so Romy doesn't feel so bad. But, well, that's another thing is Luis pinch hit, and then they put Romy in for him in the outfield. So that's telling you, there's clearly some stuff going on there. And I'm going on a bit of a rant, but clearly I've been pissed off. So
it's fair. This is a therapy session at this point. That's what I think the fan base needs. It's what I think we need. It's sometimes you just gotta lay it all out on the table and let it go. So with that said, do we even have to touch on the Adam Dudd this week? I know we kind of already skipped one segment, but I think the whole team kind of earns it.
Touch briefly on it. I just want to hear that Tony La Russa clip, so I'm
go ahead.
It's no excuse. It stinks, or whatever the heck he says. So, without further ado, we're going to talk about the guys that sucked this week, and there's a lot of them because we lost 10 in a row. And this week's Adam Dudd of the week.
You suck. You suck.
Stupid. Lousy. No excuse.
What a dud. What a total dud.
Yeah, so there's a few to choose from here. So if you're going, I have it sorted by average.
Can we just give it to Luis Robert?
Luis Robert's the dud of the week for me, regardless of his stats.
He's the dud of everybody's week.
And he only bat 111 the last 7 days. So I'm sorry. 105, even worse. So,
but if you look at this, everybody else either hit better or had some RBIs or something. Sebi Zavala, I feel like almost doesn't count because, he plays one out of every 5 games. So,
well, he still can't hit a broadside of a barn right now.
Well, he's not there to hit the broadside of a barn. He's there to catch and give Yaz's knees and hips a break. So the guy doesn't.
He's not throwing guys out either. But that's besides.
No, he's not a defensive catcher. He's not an offensive catcher. He's a bullpen catcher.
He's just a catcher.
He's a bullpen catcher, is what he is. But hey, maybe he'll hit 3 home runs in a game again, and we'll all be chanting a different tune again.
Yeah, Lenin Sosa has been horrible. I think I've seen enough out of him.
And that's the tough part with some of these guys. Grandal has bad weeks. He's a hot and cold guy. Robert, outright just had a terrible week. Colas and Sosa, you kind of give a little more leeway to, I think, because they're rookies and there's not a lot expected of them right now. Elvis Andrus is old. The further we go up this list, the more it's you can understand why this team is the way it is the longer I look at the roster,
sure.
And the less I believe the hype and the more I look at the players individually for who they are, I'm like, man, this is about what I expect. Honestly, I don't know why I would have expected anything else.
But I tell you what, though, getting Timmy back tomorrow and then pushing Elvis back to second, I think that's going to have I'm not going to finish that sentence. It could have positive effect on the team.
Yes.
I'll leave it at that.
It's going to have an effect on the team in some way, shape, or form, right? But Tim Anderson is the lifeblood of this team. The stats say it. I don't know if I can quickly or easily find it, but
LaMond was talking about it. I think they went 3 for 15 or something, and historically they're brutal without Tim Anderson.
Yeah.
We need him back.
There's something like 50 games over 500 when he plays and 20 games under when he doesn't. But yeah,
it's horrendous. But obviously the duds that come to mind, obviously we said Luis, Yaz, and both the catchers had shit weeks. Oscar Colas has been horrible. He's a guy that started off the season great, and he's been awful. Same thing with Sosa. Romy Gonzalez's drop ball was horrible. So those are some of the offensive duds. But if we go to the pitching, there's a couple of those here too.
This is where it's going to get gross.
Yeah, so let's filter this by ERA. Let's have some fun with earned runs here. Yeah, so the last 7 days.
Yeah, Clevenger came out of whatever trance he was in, and
well, I mean that's over 2 starts over the last 7 days.
No, I know,
so.
but still, 14 hits over 2 starts. That's still a lot.
Yeah, and
3
4
home
walks.
runs, 8 earned runs. 4 walks. That's not bad. 11 strikeouts. That's not bad. But I mean,
well, and the funny thing is Lance Lynn going into the 7th inning the other day with a no-hitter, and he still got 8 earned runs over 2 starts, 11 and a third.
Yeah, he took a no-hitter into the 7th and gave up 4 earned runs on 3 hits. Yeah,
Aaron Bummer has been freaking awful. I've seen enough of Aaron Bummer. Reynaldo Lopez has been bad. He's not a closer. I think when we get Liam back, you can put Reynaldo into the spot where he's more comfortable, and that's a long reliever. Graveman has not been good. I mean, this whole lineup has been bad. I mean, Gregory Santos continues to be unbelievable. We'll talk about him again in the other segment. I saw him pitch yesterday, and he's just filthy, man. He's been the MVP of this bullpen. Joe Kelly finally looked like he was back to earth. I know I'm going off the rails a little bit, but there's nothing here that's like amazing stuff. Michael Kopech has been pedestrian.
Yeah. Well, and again, it's the same thing as when we look at the offense, when we look at the batters. You look at these guys and you start looking at them individually and really look at it, and you're like, yeah, that's probably about what I expect from them. The longer you look, the more it makes sense why this team is the way they are. I mean, I think Lynn is probably the biggest outlier. This start from Dylan Cease was honestly, it's terrible. It's probably the worst.
It was bad. It was his worst start of the year.
I mean, I expanded.
He's a dud.
Than that. Yeah,
he's a dud this week for sure. I mean, I know he can't bill you out every week, but he certainly just did not have it.
You expect Lynn and Cease to, even if they're not Cy Young contenders, you expect them to be in the upper half of the league. And this losing streak, frankly, they haven't been. But outside of that, most of these guys are kind of doing what you expect them to do. And it's just like, this is really the team that we're looking at. This is the team that we hyped up.
You want to look at the home run column here, Zim. This is the problem over the last 7 days. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 home runs over the last 7 days. That is horse shit.
Well, and early in the season, I was chalking a lot of it up to pitch clock, guys not adjusting, right? What have you. At this point, it's on the coaches. Like, the coaches got to get these guys in the space to get this taken care of. If they're not conditioned, these guys need to be running 5 miles a day. They got to do something to build that stamina up. They got to do something to be able to go quick and explosive every 20 seconds.
I mean, Clevenger could have easily given up 2 more in the first couple innings. The wind was blowing in, and it knocked down some balls to the warning track. But I forget which shot it was. He gave up a bomb yesterday that probably went 4 1/4. It was just an absolute moonshot. So, like, with that wind yesterday, Clevenger's lucky that he didn't give up more. He cannot make it the second time through a lineup.
No.
It's really, really bad.
A lot of these guys have struggled with that over the past, 3 seasons. I think I called this out before the season even started with Ethan Katz. This is what I wanted to see improved from this team. I wanted to see them get through the second and third time through the lineup, and they're still not doing it. And it comes in when you look at the shift in pitching on this team, and when it really started to go sideways is when Don Cooper left and Ethan Katz came in. And I don't want to stand there and point fingers at somebody when, he's
on a hot seat right now, Zim.
He should be. It. That's it. He deserves to be on that hot seat when you objectively look at what's happening. Like, there's a trend happening, and I'm not acting like I could do better, but this guy gets paid millions of dollars to do it, and I don't.
Sure. So 17 home runs in a week cannot happen.
No, regardless of who you are, unless you are, playing. No, I mean, there's no level where that's excusable, honestly, even in coach pitch. Like,
Yeah, and then Travis makes a good comment in the chat. He says there's all these guys that they could have got in the bullpen when Liam announced he had cancer, and they didn't get anybody. And that's true. They didn't do jack diddly in the offseason.
That was this whole offseason. This whole offseason was we got Andrew Benintendi. Why aren't you going to sign anybody?
And
we
Mike
signed
Clevenger.
Andrew. Well, don't you need a pitcher? Oh, yeah, we got Mike Clevenger. Wait, isn't he on trial right now?
Exactly. I was going to say, even with all that stuff, there was a million names you could have got on. You could have made a play on Zach Greinke. You could have made a play on...
I mean, I'm not trying to bring that up as any sort of character concern with Clevenger. The main reason I bring it up is that, like, this guy wasn't there. He wasn't available to you at a certain point in time, and you still didn't go out and do it. I'm not trying to say anything about the guy. I'm simply trying to point out that, like I said, he was not part of your team at a certain point in time because of those allegations, and you did nothing to take care of it from a organizational standpoint.
For sure, man. And I'm not going to even play the put it on the board players of the week thing this week because there's a couple that deserve it, but I'm not going to play it because it's not worthy of us playing the clip.
No. There's two guys. You take one and I'll take the other.
Yeah. So if we go back to batting. Yeah. And first off, we'll get to the pick to click after this, but we gave you Burger as the pick last week when you were gone, and you win. The vote between Burger and Eloy on Twitter was you won by like 80%. So
yeah, it wasn't particularly close because
it was a bit of I disqualified myself. I picked Luis Robert last week, so I didn't even put him up there because he wouldn't have gotten any votes anyway.
But yeah, I mean, Burger's the only guy who's actually played consistently all season long. So
yeah, so I mean, there's like the top 4 guys, top 5 guys on this list are really the only ones worth talking about. Adam Hazley came up and he just was raking. I mean, he went 4 for 4 yesterday. Just for his performance alone yesterday, he makes this list. But I mean, he totaled 7 bases in 11 at bats, and yeah, I know he only had 2 RBI, but they were huge RBI. When you had 6 hits, he scored 4 runs. Zim, I mean, I'm impressed with what I've seen out of him. I say give him some more at bats, but of course, yesterday's walk-off hero, Andrew Vaughn, he got a lot of those RBIs with that shot to win the game yesterday, but he's been having good at-bats, Zim, this week. He's, like you said, he hit 286. I mean, 16 total bases, which is wild. He's walking. Andrew Vaughn hasn't been walking this year, so 3 walks in a week for him is pretty good. I still don't like the 7 strikeouts, but I mean, that is what it is. It's part of his game. He scored 3 runs. He's getting on base. I like what I've seen out of Andrew Vaughn. So, I don't know. And then, of course, you had Jake Burger, who was, if it wasn't for that walk-off yesterday, would have led the team in RBI this week with 4. I mean, he's another guy that just keeps getting it done. He scored 5 times this week, scored 5 runs. I'm looking, I believe he led the team in runs scored this week. He did. So he's getting on base. He's scoring. He's walking. His strikeouts went down. He's only had 5 this week for Jake. That's not horrible. And then Benintendi's getting on base. He's not getting RBIs, but he's getting on base and he's scoring. Well, he only scored twice, but that's more to the team than it is to anybody else. So, yeah. I mean, it's really that. Eloy gets the honorable mention because he's finally starting to turn it around a little bit because he's been frustrating to watch. Hasn't hit any bombs, which is frustrating for a guy that's supposed to be a DH. Not recently. I think he's got like 1 or 2 on the year. Well, I can tell you right now. Hang on. Let's see, where does Eloy fall on this list? He's got 2. I was right.
Yeah.
To the shock of no one, Jake Burger leads the team in home runs. Yeah. So it's been wild.
No,
man.
I mean, Jake's been on a freaking tear, man. His maximum exit velocity is in the top 1% of the league this year, which I believe he has the hardest hit ball in all of baseball this season. His what is this, expanded slugging percentage, something like that, is in the top percentage of the league. His hard hit percentage is in the top 8% of the league. I mean, the guy he's hitting the piss out of the ball. I mean, on his home runs so far this season, all the home runs he's hit, which there's 7 of them, so that's a significant size.
Yeah.
Only one of them has left his bat at under 100 miles an hour, and it was at 96 miles an hour.
He's just making crazy contact, man.
The guy is
fantastic.
He's hitting it well. He's the lone bright spot on this team at the plate right now. He's got a WAR of 0.5, which has more than doubled his career WAR so far this season.
Yeah.
That just tells you how good he's played so far. Like you said, he's probably the MVP of this team. And frankly, if he was on a better team, he'd probably be getting consideration for MVP of the league.
Yeah, I mean, really, realistically, like he's got more RBIs than Luis Robert, and he's only got 62 at bats compared to Luis Robert's 108. He's got the higher WAR because his defense has been good, and he's been clutch sometimes, Robert. But I don't know. I'd take Jake Berger right now, maybe because he's the man of the people, and he's a friend of the show. I'm a little partial towards him, obviously,
but it's easy to be partial towards him right now, you know.
Yeah, I mean, he's hitting 242, which, but he's getting it done. He's driving guys in. He's not getting a hit every time. He's walking too, which is nice.
242 is about what I expect from a player like him, though. Like, that's exactly where he should be. Think about like Carlos Lee, right? Like that's kind of the kind of player he reminds me of, right? Where he hits the piss out of the ball. He doesn't make you guffaw on defense, good or bad. And he shows up, he gets the work done.
Yeah.
He's not going to get on base all the time, but 333 on base percentage, that's more than acceptable.
Yeah, for sure. I'm texting Vinny for his pick to click.
Yeah, no problem.
Forgot to ask him.
Well, so I think it's fair to say, my put it on the board player of the week is Jake Berger. As you said, he won our pick to click segment as well. Do you have any particular player that you'd like to highlight this week?
I was really impressed with Adam Hazley. I know he's only had a couple of bats, but he basically won us that base. I don't want to say it. I don't give him all the credit, but he definitely put us in a position to win yesterday, going 4 for 4 with a walk. And then also I've seen good at bats this week from Andrew Vaughn. Happy to see him kind of turning that around a little bit. If this team wants to win, Andrew Vaughn needs to hit. And he needs to hit dingers, so it's about time he started doing that. So I'll go with Vaughn, but obviously my pick would have been Berger as well because he's just getting it done. So
yeah,
great.
Like I said,
choices there.
I thought there were only 2 guys. I'd take one, and you took the other, and those are exactly the 2 guys I expected us to take. So yeah,
pretty much.
I tell you what, the nice part of Jake playing as good as he has is I've got all these autographed rookie cards that I kind of bought just like heat of the moment because they were cheap and I wanted to do some giveaways for us. And now I'm just watching them climb in value.
That's it, man. I'm involved with a youth fair in the area near my house in Michigan, the Berrien County Youth Fair, and I reached out to Ashlyn and she's going to send a signed ball for we're going to do a silent auction fundraiser here coming up. I think it's in early June. So they were kind enough to donate a signed ball. That's going to be pretty cool. So
that's awesome. I tell you, I've legitimately been considering making Jake Berger my next Sox jersey that I buy.
Yeah. I want to do that myself. And then I'm like, I know I'm going to buy it and then they're going to trade him. That's what happens every time I buy a jersey.
Right.
But regardless, he's a good dude and he's going to go on and have a great career somewhere if it's not here. So I don't really mind it. And plus people just think you're hungry, Yeah.
2 of the last 3 jerseys I bought were Jose Abreu and Roquan Smith. So I get you.
I have an Eloy Jimenez jersey, but he could get traded too. So
Yeah.
you never know. It could happen with anybody. But highlighting the week coming up is what we call White Sox Weekly. The week's not too awful for the White Sox. It's certainly not great, but Minnesota is not as good as expected. We get 3 against Minnesota Twins. And then, Zim, we go to Cincinnati to play the Reds. I am pulling up the probable pitchers in the background. Sorry, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. No problem.
And I know I'm not going to share it because every time I share it, they don't have that many. See, it's all TBD. It's so weird. So tomorrow
it's been that way quite a bit lately.
Then, of course, you got Cease going on Wednesday. You got Lucas Giolito going on Thursday, which is funny is they know who's starting for the Twins on Thursday, but they don't know who's starting on Wednesday.
Right.
Weird. And then our starters aren't figured out yet against the Reds this weekend, but right now the Reds are about 4 games under 500. Excuse me. Minnesota is hovering at 5 games over 500. So these are huge games, and we need to win them. So the team wants to take a little bit of momentum from yesterday's win. It's the right time to do it, Zim. I feel like we could take 2 out of 3 from Minnesota.
I mean, I think it's possible. The tough part with Minnesota is, their pitchers seem to kind of have the Sox number. They always have. And I don't know why. They've got good scouting reports or something. And then, Carlos Correa, he's still there. Joey Gallo, I mean, he might not be playing like the guy we know he can be, but wake up at any moment. Byron Buxton still on that team. And Michael A. Taylor. I don't know why that name stands out to me, but I feel like that guy's done some damage against the Sox.
Well, the Twins just find a way to beat us,
I mean, they do. You're totally not wrong on that. So,
it's gonna be an interesting week.
If they can ride the hot hands that they had at the plate in yesterday's game, hopefully it ends well. As far as the Reds series goes, I don't know who's on the mound for the Reds, but if they have to face Hunter Green, he's going to make them look silly.
They're facing Hunter Green on Friday. Yes.
Yeah. He's going to make them look silly. The way that the Sox like to chase pitches and the way that he throws the ball, he's going to look very, very good, I think.
They should bench Luis on Friday for sure.
I mean, anybody who doesn't have good plate discipline, so him and Eloy, and if Moncada's healthy, he should be benched. And, they got to do something to start adjusting the lineups for these guys.
By the way, Zim, real quick, that Friday game is on Apple TV because it's Friday Night Baseball, just FYI.
Gross. That's awful. So sorry to everybody in advance that won't get to watch that. In the field, they don't have anybody like super scary. The Reds, that is, but their pitching is good. Their pitching is so much better than the White Sox, and that's all it takes to beat this team right now. So,
yep, it doesn't take much, but anyway, we'll see what happens. Diving into this week's picks to click. Zim won last week, so let's see what we're gonna do this week. Yes, Zim, you were the winner. So the updated standings is everybody has a win. This is our 4th show. The first show of the season, it was before the season started, so we gave a week. So everyone has a win. I have won. Zim has won. Vinny has won, and our guest has won. So you get first pick here. Who, Zim, are you picking for your pick to click this week?
Yeah, well, it feels a little unfair because we didn't ask LaMond Pope his pick to click tonight.
I can definitely message him and see if he's got one.
But That's right. We can always message him. If he picks one that any of us pick, happy to concede and select somebody new. But I'm riding the hot hand as far as this goes. Jake Berger's been hitting the piss out of the ball. He just won me, a pick to click.
I won the week before with him. Yeah.
Yeah. He seems to be the guy to pick this year. A few years ago it was Luis Robert. Last year it was Dylan Cease. If there's anybody that you can just pick and ride, that's the play to win this segment, right?
And PZ points out Twins pitchers aren't very healthy, and it seems like a good week for Jake Berger to hit some bombs.
I would be totally okay with that. So yeah, ride the hot hand. Jake Berger, new dad. Love the guy. He and I have gotten on well both times he's come on the show. So I root for him every day, whether he's my pick to click or not. But this week I'm rooting a little extra hard because he is my pick to click.
I like it, man. I like it a lot. And I reached out to our friend Vinny, who's covering the New Jersey Devils right now, who are still up 2-0, by the way. He is going to go with Andrew Vaughn this week, who, had the big walk-off yesterday. So that's a good choice, Vin. That was who I was thinking about taking, but it's all right. I give it to you because, I picked Luis last week. I couldn't have picked a worse player for my pick to click last week. And then for me, man, what do I want to do with my pick to click this week? I'm going to, what do I want to do? You know what? I'm going to take Tim Anderson. Take Tim Anderson in his return to the lineup. Feel like he can come back energized. And
if anybody can, it's him. Yeah.
So I like my chances with TA. He's been the forgotten guy because he's been out for a hot minute, but when he's in, he gets hits. So
I'd say a sneaky guy to watch might be Yasmani Grandal. He might still need another week or two, but he's such a hot and cold guy. And he's been cold for about 2.5 weeks now. I think it might be time for him to awaken.
I like your thoughts there, Zim.
But as I've talked about in years past, one thing with Grandal in particular, you see it with a lot of hitters, but him especially, right before he gets hot, he'll start taking a bunch of walks because he starts seeing the ball really, really well. Yeah. So the moment you see that walk total start to tick up for him, grab him and pick to click. That's my free tip to you, sir. Vinny, if you listen back to this, it's a free tip to you as well. But frankly, I think Vinny's going to be the guy to beat this year. So that's why I'm telling you, Joe.
Hey, I appreciate it. We're all notched up right now. I don't think that ever happened in the history of the show. So to start the year, everyone's got to win. So that feels good. I'm excited about that. But to recap, for our pick to click, Zim is going with Jake Berger. Vinny is going with Andrew Vaughn. And I am going to ride with TA returning from the IL. So all good choices there. It could be a really close one when it comes to the vote on Twitter next week. It's definitely not going to be an 80% to 20% victory next week, Zim. Especially since hopefully none of these guys get benched for lack of hustle. I don't think they will. Doesn't strike me as something that would happen to any three of these guys. So
no, not these guys.
And I do have a guaranteed take, but I'll play the clip anyway. Why not? It's a segment that's got a pretty graphic. It's 6 seconds, although Gandia did a nice job in this week's guaranteed take. The Luis Robert hate was strong within me this week, Zim, as you're aware.
Right.
So my guaranteed take for the week is that the White Sox should trade Luis Robert before the deadline, regardless if they're contenders or not, because I can't stand him right now. I know it's probably a little bit of an overreaction.
Yeah.
But I think they could, if he gets hot, maybe capitalize on it. A chat room would probably rip me apart. I think I'm feeling extra emotional about Luis Robert because he pissed me off really bad the other day. But yeah, I wouldn't mind it especially if we're not contending, because then start over.
Yeah, I get it. I'm not entirely against the idea. I have always felt like he has been more hype than performance since he came to Chicago. And that's not to dog on him by any means. I want him to live up to that hype. I want him to be this Mike Trout type player that we were told he was going to be. But I think we're far enough into his career to see that that's just not the case. And
chases every ball in the dirt. I think
maybe you
someone
can
said that in the chat. Yeah, Travis.
Maybe you can get a team, like the Mets or who else is one of those all-in kind of teams, the Dodgers maybe, or maybe even like a Seattle or a Tampa, who wants to surround their young talent with more talent. But you get a team like that to bite on this guy and say he's advertised as all of this, and we're the guys who can get that out of him. We're the guys who are going to make him into this superstar. If you can get a team to bite on that and send you 2-3, top prospects for him in a Chris Sale type deal. The problem is that Chris Sale was still at the top of his game when you got Yoan Moncada and Michael Kopech for him. And granted, those guys are both on the team right now and starters for this team. They are also guys who haven't quite lived up to the hype. Granted, it seems like the Sox parted with Chris Sale at the right point in time based on his history.
Well, PZ points out that there's no value there right now, and he's right with
and that's why I say what I say. You've got to find the team that says we are the guys who are going to fix him. You're not just going to go trade him to Seattle and get a J-Rod back for him. That's
the defense has been elite, so that part is he's upping his game. He is the highest WAR on the team for now.
Yeah. I see somebody like Tampa going for him, honestly. If you put him out there, I think a team like that would go for him. Yeah, I don't know that you'd get the strongest return package, especially from a team like Tampa who seems to know when it's exactly the right moment to move on from players.
Tampa, I could see him fitting in like on Baltimore,
Toronto.
Yeah, he's got a lot of places he could fit to take him in Houston.
Yeah, they probably would.
But no,
would. I mean, in addition to that, I'd trade Moncada right behind him if you're trading him. If you're making a move like that, like you're blowing it up. So
there's zero. You got to bring him back and let him get some value. Moncada was great, and then he like LaMond said, he just kind of fell off again because he got hurt. So
yeah,
frustrating.
I'm just throwing that out there that if you're blowing it all up, you might as well go the whole 9. You might as well trade
Giolito.
Trade shit. If you can get a good enough return package for him, trade Dylan Cease. Trade Liam Hendricks in the last year of his deal here. Trade Luis Robert. Trade Yoan Moncada. We talked a few weeks ago about, do you trade Tim Anderson at the deadline?
Could happen.
Why not? If you're gonna blow it up big. That's the way I feel about it. It's what the Bears did, and they're starting to come back around. I mean, has there ever been more hype right after the draft than there is right now?
Yeah, there's a lot of hype right now, Zim. But there hasn't been a lot of hype about the White Sox this week. We kind of broke it all down. We had a fantastic guest, and we have to thank him again, LaMond Pope, who writes for the Chicago Tribune about the White Sox, covers the team, travels with the team. The guy knows the White Sox like the back of his hand. And third time on the show, and he gets better every time. Go to chicagotribune.com. You can read his work there, pick up a newspaper. Make sure you follow him at LaMond Pope on Twitter. Just the dude's such a great guy, and he knows his stuff. So thank you again, LaMond. Zim, we've reached the end of the show. We're going to do our shout-outs and get out of here. And who knows, maybe we'll catch the tail end of that Devils game. I don't know if it's still going or not, but nonetheless, what do you got for me, buddy?
Well, shout out to the kids on my little league team who almost made me late to the show tonight. But hey, they played a heck of a game. They played one of their best games of the year so far. We got lots more coming up, and I look forward to watching these boys grow every week, develop as ball players, and just generally develop their passion for the sport, because that's where we all start, right? 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old kids playing ball out in the yard with our buddies. And that's what they're doing right now. And hopefully it turns into a lifelong love like it has for us, for these kids. So big shout out to them, and the other coaches and dads who are dedicating their time to helping them. Huge shout out to my beautiful new wife, as well as our children. Everybody is thriving and doing well. A big thank you to our families and friends who made it all possible last week, and who, I'll just be outright with it, who paid for our honeymoon. It was amazing.
Awesome.
To be able to just sit back and relax for a week and not have to stress about anything, not have to stress about, and any worldly thing. And a big shout out to my in-laws for taking care of our boys for that week and making that possible. And my folks for taking care of our dog and making that possible, because even though he may not be our blood child, he takes just as much work as they do, and they know that. So a big shout out to everybody involved again in that and helping it happen.
That's awesome, man. And again, congratulations to you guys. That's awesome. I saw some of the pictures. Looks like the honeymoon was fun. So, and the wedding looked great. You looked extra dapper. I love it. Good stuff, man. So congratulations, Zim.
Thank you.
Was I right? Were you really exhausted at the end of that wedding day?
I was being handed drinks all night. So okay. I was actually pretty lively. I will say we went back to the hotel room, me and my best man, and might have at that point taken it too hard, but I'm glad
after your wedding?
After the wedding, yeah.
Oh my.
We were just hanging out, kicking back, and yeah, we were all just hanging out, and that's the point where we all went too far. So
wow, man. All right. Well, hey, I'm glad you guys had a great time, and Vinny and I took care of business last week. It's all good, man. So no worries there.
Awesome.
But good stuff, Sam. I love the shout outs. My shout out to start is going to take a little bit more of a serious tone, but 8 years ago today, I lost my sister. So I want to dedicate this show to my sister, Lauren. I know she's with me every step of the way, every day. And she watches over me, my wife, my daughter, my mom, my dad, everybody. So, Lauren, this show is for you. I love you very much, and I miss you more than anything. Of course, I shout out my beautiful wife, Catherine, every single show. She's my rock, my everything. And our little girl, Audrey. I wish you could have met your Aunt Lauren, but I know she's part of the reason you're thriving and growing and walking and running all over the place now. So, love you very much. And, of course, my Great Dane, Maverick. He's just all around the best. So those are always my main shout outs, but including my sister, especially today. Love you, miss you. And just not the same without you, but, I know you're watching from somewhere. So always love you. And, getting off that, of course, a huge shout out to Aldo Gandia, the man who lets us do this every single week on this network and gives us the platform. My headspace was in a weird place today. And coming on and doing this show, certainly helps me process and get my mind off things. So I love being able to do that every week. So Aldo, thank you. A huge shout out to the chat room, everyone that's been hanging out all night. Travis, PZ, Foster. I saw Joe in here earlier. I don't know. There's so many people. I can't even list everybody, but those are the guys that have been interacting all night. So I appreciate you guys as always. I'm getting a little long-winded on my shout out today, but that's all right. And of course, Zim, a huge shout out to you and your beautiful wife. And congratulations on your nuptials and being married. And it's I tell you what, man, I text you this the day before your wedding, but being married's one of the best things, at least for me. Having a partner, someone in your corner, it's, everyone acts like it's the end of the world. Some people say that, some people don't, but people that have an amazing spouse, they know what it's all about. And you'll know. I mean, I can see it when you guys are together. I can see it in the photos. it's very evident. So having an amazing spouse like I do and you do, it makes a world of difference. And I couldn't go back to being a single man anymore. I wouldn't know what to do with myself.
Yeah.
And
It's
plus,
rough, man.
just
I
having
think
the best friend.
that's just it. I think back to the times when I was living alone and had my bachelor pad and yeah, I can do whatever I want today. I was always bored. I never knew what to do with myself. And now like I have not just someone to keep me company, but somebody to, give me purpose. And then even more so the boys that we have together that just
Purpose is a great word, man.
give it even more. And just, yeah.
Raising kids is a hell of an experience, man.
It is.
I say all the time, it's the coolest thing I've ever done. So,
yeah.
But yeah, those are my shots. Oh, of course, we got to shout out our buddy Vinny, who's actually covering a team that's going to win a Stanley Cup playoff series.
I've been shouting out Vinny all night. Vinny is very much here with us still, even though he's not here with us.
They just scored an empty netter. The Devils are up 4-0 with a minute left in the game. I think it's safe to say the Devils are moving on to the next round, and Vinny is going to be very happy. He deserves to cover a team that is winning. So
congratulations, you stole our team and now are winning with them. My team.
Yes, absolutely.
the Colorado Rockies turned into the New Jersey Devils. For anybody who's not familiar with how what were they? They were the AHL merged into the NHL.
That's right. And Zim, our buddy in the chat, is doing Foster's shameless plug. I'm on the Bears Country podcast on Thursdays at 8 p.m. So go check that out too, on all the great content here on the Barroom Network.
Yes.
And the Bears Country podcast and everything else that's going on, man. There's so many great shows on the network. Greg Gabriel, Vinny's doing Crosstown Crosstalk. He's doing Bar Down Black. It's not Bar Down Blackhawks. It's Bar Down Hockey.
Yes.
And there's a lot of hockey to talk about. There's some major upsets in hockey, man. Florida Panthers taking down the Boston Bruins, the biggest collapse ever.
Did y'all notice that Aaron Rodgers went to New York and then all of a sudden New York started losing in the playoffs?
Well, yeah, I guess so.
Hockey and basketball, man.
That's right. But of course, we love our buddy Vinny, and I love all my co-hosts. I appreciate you guys as always. Doing the show is just, it's a blessing, and being able to talk with you guys and be friends with you guys. Not even when we're not on the air, because it's more than just it's not just for it's not just for I don't even know. It's not just for the cameras, I guess is what I'm trying to say. We're all friends, and I wish I could have been at your wedding, Zim, but we'll celebrate whenever we're able to get together. I promise you that much.
We'll find time.
We will. And side note, and an unrelated not shout out, I'm going to see Blink-182 on Saturday, man. I'm pumped.
Have a blast, man. I'm going to see Real Friends on Friday.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
They announced they also have Beauty School Dropout opening for them. Zim, I'm not sure if you're familiar with them.
Very loosely, yeah. I think it'll be
and then Turnstile, of course.
Yes, Turnstile is very good.
So it's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
And rumor has it that they're releasing a new song Thursday or Friday. So
hey, and along those lines, shout out to my sister who got us tickets to 8123 Day that is happening here in Denver this year, which is the Maine's record label / something or another. I don't remember exactly what it is. Regardless, the Maine is coming through in August with Real Friends and Knuckle Puck again, who are two of my favorite bands and my sister's favorite band. So exciting that we get to celebrate in that way.
Yeah, man, that's what it's all about, man. And just getting back out there, going to shows again. Life is good. I haven't been to a rock show in a hot minute, so I'm pumped up about that.
Enjoy it, man. The first one back is weird, though.
Yeah, I'm not even in the pit. I'm in the seats, but
okay.
Yeah, regardless, it'll be weird.
I tell you that going 2 years without going to live events and then going to a concert as my first big event back was weird. At least you've been to a few other things.
This is true, but nonetheless, looking forward to that, and maybe we'll get a turnaround this week in White Sox baseball. We'll see. It starts tomorrow with the Twins. Again, last minute shout out again to our guest LaMond Pope from the Chicago Tribune. Read his content, follow him on Twitter. The dude just knows everything about baseball and the White Sox like the back of his hand. with that said, Zim, we're going to get out of here. We're going to cut the show at 1 hour and 45. And we'll see everybody next week. And maybe Vinny will be back. Maybe he won't. Either way, they're still alive, the Devils. But for the South Burbs Hitmen, I'm Joe Mandel. That's Steven Zim Zimmerman. And Vinny Parisi is covering a winning team. So we will see you guys next week. As always, let's go White Sox.